What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my updated college football playoff predictions as we head into week number 3 of the 2024 college football season. So I did say, of course, before I start these predictions, I did say I was going to do this video every single Friday, but now with, some games coming up on Thursday and, of course, on Friday, I decided to change it and do it on Tuesdays instead of doing it on Thursday or Friday. So with that being said, we're going to do this on Tuesdays now for these playoff predictions. And again, how this video works, I'm showing you my updated playoff predictions week by week. Usually things will change pretty much, if we have chaos, of course, over the weekend. And that's exactly what we got over the weekend. In week number 2, we saw a lot of close games. And with all the chaos that happened and also almost plenty of upsets happen, we're going to make some changes here. We had a couple of changes, and when I say a couple of changes, I mean I got 2 new teams here in my playoff predictions as we head into week number 3. Again, 2 teams that I had from last week are pretty much out of it. Not saying their playoff hopes are over. They're just, out of the playoff prediction here as we go into week 3 based off of when they lost and everything, and also based off of their performance. So let's go ahead and get right into my week 3 playoff predictions here for the 2024 college football season. So here again is the bracket for the college football playoff. Remember, you got your top 4 conference champions, the top 4 teams out of the Power 4, and then you got one group of 5 champion that will be the number 12 seed. Then the first round games, you got the at-large teams. I forgot to mention that as well, from 5 through 11. The first round games will all be on campuses, and then the second round and semifinals will be held on New Year's Six bowls, and then you got your national championship on a big stage. So let's go ahead and get right into these updated playoff predictions. I'll start with my top 4 teams. The top 4 teams are not really a big change from last week. I still got the Georgia Bulldogs here at number 1. I still favor them to win the SEC championship and also make it into the national championship as well. I did pick Georgia pretty much in the offseason to win it all, but now when I look at Georgia and Texas both being in the same conference in the SEC, I feel like Texas actually could really challenge Georgia, and I really am close to picking Texas and changing my pick there. But as of right now, I'm still going to go with Georgia to beat them in the regular season. I still got Georgia going undefeated in 2024, and again, making the SEC championship and, of course, winning it and getting that number 1 spot here in the college football playoff. And they have looked good in the first 2 weeks. Took care of business against Tennessee Tech over the weekend. So, again, the Georgia Bulldogs here at number 1. Number 2 for me, Ohio State. No change here either. The Buckeyes, I still got this team winning the Big Ten championship and getting in there as a number 2 seed. I got them beating Oregon in the Big Ten championship as of right now. But now when I look at that game in the regular season between the Buckeyes and the Ducks, Oregon has not looked really good in the first 2 weeks of the season. So you can say that Ohio State might be the favorite as of right now to win the Big Ten championship. But you got other teams out there that are pretty much going to try to challenge Ohio State. Again, I think Oregon and Michigan are the 2 teams, and then same thing with Penn State that can really challenge Ohio State for that top spot. But again, Ohio State, when I look at that matchup against Oregon, I feel like they might be the favorite going into that game now. Just like with Texas and Georgia, I feel like Texas might actually have a chance to beat Georgia. And then same thing with Ohio State. They can go on the road and beat Oregon as well. So again, I got the Buckeyes here getting the number 2 spot. No change here either. I had Ohio State and Georgia ever since the preseason to go to the national championship, but I have the Bulldogs winning the national championship, so the top 2 teams don't really change for me. Moving on to number 3, that's going to be the Miami Hurricanes. Miami, they're the most talented team in the ACC right now. I think they're definitely the top contender in the conference, but not really that far behind them is Clemson. Clemson definitely had a much more better game against Appalachian State than they did against Georgia a couple weeks ago. So I feel like Clemson is back in the picture. NC State, really wouldn't count them out just yet because they played a really good Tennessee team. And again, Miami, with their win over Florida, a couple weeks ago, I had this team at number 3. You saw them at number 3, my first updated playoff predictions in week number 2 from last week. So I'm going to keep the Hurricanes here at number 3. Pretty much took care of business. I kind of want to see Miami play like a really good team in the ACC and see how they do. They already played like a Power 4 team in Florida, but Florida probably won't be really good for the rest of the year just because of their schedule. And maybe that's a win that probably won't be really good for Miami at the end of the day. But I got this Miami team getting number 3 here. It doesn't really matter because if they win their conference championship, they're going to get in there as a top 4 team anyway. But again, I got Miami here at number 3. Number 4, same thing here. It's Oklahoma State. Like I said, I didn't really change any of my top 4 teams here from this past weekend. Oklahoma State had a sneak by against Arkansas in that double overtime game. With that victory, I feel like that was a very important victory here for the Cowboys, which means they might have momentum going into the rest of their games, and especially going into Big 12 play. They'll play Utah in a couple more weeks. I mean, that obviously will kind of decide who will get the, maybe this number 4 spot and definitely make a run to the Big 12 championship. But again, when it comes to the Big 12 and the ACC, these are 2 conferences that are going to be really wide open once we get into the middle of the season and all these teams get better and better each and every single game. These 2 conferences are going to be really wide open, and any of these teams in the conference can pretty much win it. And you look at the Big 10 and the SEC. I mean, those 2 conferences might be really wide open as well. But either way, all these 4 Power 4 conferences are going to be really interesting as these teams get better and better as we go into the month of September. Month of October is usually by the time where we kind of figure out how good these teams are and how better they can get. And also November is really the most chaotic month that we have in college football history. But again, these are my top 4 teams. No change here from, my predictions from last week. So let's now get to the at-large teams here. Moving on to number 5, I got the Texas Longhorns, so no change here. I got Texas as the top at-large team as of right now. And like I said with Georgia earlier, I feel like Texas might actually have a chance to really challenge Georgia in that regular season game and give Georgia maybe their only loss of the season. But then Georgia probably gets revenge on them in the SEC championship. But based off of what Texas has done in the last couple of weeks, I feel like this might be the best team in the country. The offense is just very good. And, Quinn Ewers, of course, has been really consistent on both, really throwing the football. And again, the defense has also been doing their job as well. So again, watch out for Texas here. They definitely probably could be a number 1 seed in the college football playoff just based off of who they play on the schedule. Their schedule is really not that tough. I mean, they got Michigan. That was a big win there. But, if Michigan turns out to be like a bad team, then that probably won't be a good win for Texas, in resume and everything. But either way, the Texas Longhorns are at number 5 for me as my first at-large team. Moving on to number 6, no change here. I got the Oregon Ducks. Oregon has not looked good in the last 2 weeks, but I'm going to keep them here at number 6. I did mention the kind of same thing from last week when I did my Week 2 playoff predictions when they played against Idaho. They weren't really good in that game. And Boise State actually is a really good win for Oregon in their resume. Boise State might be the top group of 5 team out of the Mountain West that can probably make the college football playoff. Either way, they still got the win. I still feel like Oregon will beat Ohio State in the regular season, but they will still lose the Big 10 championship. But like I said with Ohio State and Oregon, just like Georgia and Texas, I feel like the Buckeyes might have a chance to win that game on the road now in the regular season. And again, I'm really thinking about changing my picks here as we go into the next few weeks here this college football season. But I got Oregon here at number 6. I still think this is a very talented team. Maybe they will get better once we get into the month of October. But I got the Ducks here at number 6. Number 7 is Ole Miss. No change here for me. I had the Rebels here at number 7. The offense, of course, doing their job, and the defense, of course, is doing their job as well. I kind of want to see Ole Miss play Wake Forest this weekend. That'll kind of be their first real test this weekend. They will play on the road in that game. I feel like Ole Miss, though, will be the more better team. But I kind of want to see Ole Miss play an SEC opponent as well and see how good this defense actually is. So Ole Miss here at number 7. Number 8, no change here. Tennessee at number 8 for me. An absolute dominating performance against NC State this past weekend. I feel like Tennessee might be the best offense in the country right now. I know Texas has a really good offense as well. Tennessee and Texas are both pretty similar teams, but Tennessee, I just feel like they have the best offense in the country just based off of what they've done in the last couple weeks. And Ole Miss and Tennessee are pretty similar. Their defenses are much more improved compared to the last few years now that they've had Lane Kiffin for Ole Miss and then Josh Heupel here for Tennessee. So Tennessee here at number 8. Number 9, Penn State. I know their performance wasn't really that good against Bowling Green, but I'm still giving them credit for that win over West Virginia a couple weeks ago. I did mention this in my top 25 video. Yes, Penn State was very inconsistent. They just had a really bad ball game, but this offense is really good. I think the defense is also going to get better and better. It's not the same defense as they had from last year, but either way, Penn State is going to be a very talented team for the rest of the way. So I got Penn State here at number 9. All right, number 10 and number 11 are a couple of changes here for me. Last week I had Notre Dame at number 10, and then last week I had Michigan at number 11. So starting with number 10, that's going to be Alabama. So Alabama actually joins the college football playoff predictions here. They have looked really good in the last couple weeks. I know that South Florida game, they struggled in the first half, but I feel like the Crimson Tide definitely deserved to be in here. I had no other teams and no other options to put here at number 10. Notre Dame I probably would have kept in here, but based off of that loss to Northern Illinois, I had to put Alabama here at number 10. And the Crimson Tide are not a bad team. I kind of want to see Alabama. Like I said in my top 25 video from yesterday, I want to see Alabama play like a really good team, and especially they'll get it when they play Wisconsin this weekend, and then they got Georgia before a bye week and everything. So yeah, that will be a very interesting 2 games there, and we'll see how good this Alabama team will be. Are they still kind of the same Alabama team that we saw, when Nick Saban was there, or is this a different Alabama team? I think the offense is really good, but that defense again, it struggled against South Florida, but they got better once the fourth quarter came out. And again, Alabama still came out with a victory against South Florida. So again, Alabama here at number 10. Number 11 for me was pretty tough. And, the playoff obviously is a lot different. I don't think teams really should be penalized for, losing a conference championship game, especially when Texas and Oregon, you see them both here at number 5 and number 6. I have these 2 teams being runner-ups in, their conference championships. So with that being said, I have another runner-up here. Probably getting into their conference championship, but coming up just short. They should be penalized for the way they compete in that one. So with that being said, number 11 for me is Utah. So I got Utah here at number 11. I've been very impressed with this team in the first 2 weeks. I know their performance against Baylor wasn't really the best, but I got this team at number 11. I had really no other options out there. Maybe I could have done Clemson, maybe I could have done LSU, but those 2 teams lost in week 1, and they're 1-1. Utah, of course, is 2-0. It's not really just about records, but with Utah getting into the Big 12 championship, I feel like, they shouldn't really be penalized if they were able to compete against Oklahoma State and almost beat them as well. So again, I got Utah here at number 11, and then moving on to number 12, I still got no change here. Boise State at number 12. This is my top Group of 5 team and also my Group of 5 champion. And, the way they competed against Oregon, I'm keeping this team at number 12. So the Broncos here at number 12 heading into week 3. So let's now make predictions here if these games were to happen officially tomorrow. We'll start with the first round games. I got Tennessee moving on, beating Penn State here. So last week I picked Penn State here to win this game, but this time I got Tennessee just based off of the performances from this past weekend. I feel like Tennessee, with the offensive performance that they put on against NC State, they would beat Penn State here in this matchup. And then Oklahoma State and Texas beating Boise State. I feel like Texas actually would be a big favorite in this game still. I still think Texas probably will beat Boise State fairly easily because they're playing at home. And then Ole Miss, I got them beating Alabama here. I think this would be a shootout here if both of these teams played. They don't even play each other in the regular season, which is kind of really weird because both of these teams used to play each other every year. And of course, it was a rivalry game. But again, I got Ole Miss here just because of the home field advantage. I think their offense is a little bit better than Alabama's. And then I got Utah actually pulling off the upset here against Oregon. And, based off of what Oregon's done in the last couple weeks, I can't really move this team moving on to the second round just based off of the performances in the last couple weeks. And Utah, I got them pulling off the upset, so let's now move on to the quarterfinals. So in the quarterfinals, I got Georgia beating Tennessee. I think Georgia definitely would beat Tennessee on a neutral field. It would be a really tough game here for Georgia because, Nico Maliava is a scrambling quarterback. We've seen Georgia's defenses really struggle against, dual threat quarterbacks and everything. But I feel like Georgia would still beat Tennessee either way on a neutral field. And when it comes to, a big game, I feel like Georgia definitely would win those big games. And Kirby Smart knows how to get it done as well. Texas, I think they still beat Oklahoma State here. I think Texas has a slightly more better offense than Oklahoma State. They might have a better running game, and they also might have a better defense as well. And I think they're also the more talented team. So I got Texas moving on to the semifinals. Ohio State, I think they would beat Ole Miss here in the second round. This would be probably the toughest defense that Ole Miss really goes up against, but I favor Ohio State's defense a little bit more than Ole Miss's. And I like Ohio State's. I don't really like Ohio State's offense more than Ole Miss's, but I feel like Ohio State with a shootout and a really good defensive team, they would obviously win it. And then, of course, Miami and Utah. I got Miami moving on here. I trust Miami's offense a little bit more, and I also kind of trust Cam Ward more than Cam Rising. Cam Ward obviously has played pretty well in the first couple weeks of the season, so the Hurricanes move on to the semifinals. And then in the semifinals, we got Georgia versus Texas, and then Ohio State versus Miami. I'm going to go with Georgia and Ohio State here to move on to the national championship. So, again, same picks as, of course, from last week and then, of course, from the preseason. Again, I'm favoring Georgia against Texas as of right now in the regular season and also beating them in the SEC championship. But you never know. I might switch my pick here once we get into the second half of the college football season. And, again, Texas has that game at home in the regular season matchup. And if Texas can win that game, I feel like Georgia maybe gets revenge on them in the SEC championship, but we'll find out here in the next few weeks once the season goes around. And then Ohio State, I think Ohio State much has a better defense than Miami does. I do try to kind of trust, Ohio State a little bit on these neutral site venues. I think the defense probably would make a big stop at the end of the day. This probably would be a low-scoring type game. I think both offenses might be pretty even, but I think defensively Ohio State will keep this game really low-scoring. So I got the Buckeyes moving on here to face Georgia in the national championship. I feel like both of these teams, again, are pretty even, but I'm still going to go with my preseason pick here for week 3. I'm going to go with Georgia here to win the national championship. So, again, that is my prediction here for the playoff as we go into week number 3 of the 2024 season. Like I said, I made a couple of changes here with Alabama and Utah based off of what happened in week number 2. So let me guys know what you think about these playoff predictions and give me your playoff predictions updates down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.